Welcome to The Explainer. If you're tuning in, you've probably been there, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. Not necessarily in a full panic, just stuck. You know the drill. You've got a perfectly comfortable bed, a pitch-black room, but a brain that absolutely refuses to shut off. Today, we're popping the hood on exactly how we fall asleep. We're skipping the warm milk advice and getting into the actual biological triggers of rest, the literal acoustic physics behind the voices that guide us there, and the rapidly evolving tech designed to outsmart our own habits. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so here's a mystery to kick things off. Picture this. You grab your favorite sleep app and put on a bedtime story read by a massive celebrity. Let's say Matthew McConaughey is talking you through a train ride across the Scottish Highlands. Night 1, you were out cold in 12 minutes. It's like absolute magic. But fast forward to night 15. Suddenly, you're wide awake. You literally know the bit about the sheep is coming before he even says it. Why does a masterfully produced audio track, a voice that could probably sell you a luxury car in 2 seconds, suddenly lose its power and actually start keeping you up? Keep that in the back of your mind, because the answer sits right at the intersection of our biology and our habits.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The science of sleep meditation. 2. Acceptance and letting go. 3. The hypnotic voice. 4. The habituation problem. And finally, 5. Tech for better sleep.
Let's jump straight into Section 1, the science of sleep meditation.
Before we even touch apps or audio tracks, we gotta answer a really basic question. Does mindfulness actually work better than standard everyday advice? A clinical trial in JAMA Internal Medicine gives us a pretty definitive yes. They took older adults with moderate sleep issues and split them up. One group got standard sleep hygiene education. Keep the room cool, stick to a bedtime, the usual stuff. The other group learned mindful awareness practices. And the results are kind of mind-blowing. Both groups started with a baseline sleep disturbance score of 10.2. The standard hygiene group, they only dropped to 9.1. It barely moved the needle. But the mindfulness group saw this massive, clinically significant drop down to a 7.4. Plus, they felt less fatigued during the day and had fewer depressive symptoms. So mindfulness literally physically outperforms standard sleep hygiene by a mile.
Why does it work so well? Well, it all comes down to physiology. When you're lying there in the dark with racing thoughts, fluffing your pillow isn't going to save you, because your body is essentially locked in a low-grade fight-or-flight mode. Mindfulness actively flips a switch in your autonomic nervous system, moving you into the parasympathetic state, rest and digest. By focusing on your breath or doing a methodical body scan, you're physically lowering your heart rate and boosting oxygen flow. You aren't just telling yourself to calm down, you're fundamentally altering your nervous system to pull your brain completely out of that 3 a.m. doom scroll.
Moving on to Section 2. Acceptance and letting go.
To actually hit that biological switch we just talked about, you need a very specific mental approach, which comes straight from the mindfulness-based therapy for insomnia protocol. I absolutely love how this therapist puts it. Mindfulness meditation is not another form of relaxation, it is the practice of paying attention without engaging. Think about it. When you wake up at night, your gut reaction is to fix the problem, right? You want to force yourself to relax. But trying to force relaxation is work, it's mental effort. What this protocol reveals is that you have to totally reframe your relationship with being awake. You observe the fact that you're awake, you notice the thoughts, but you flat out refuse to actually engage in solving them.
And that brings us to this massive concept called non-striving. Look, sleep is a natural biological process. You just can't force it. It's literally like trying to pry a flower open to make it bloom. You're just going to break the flower. When you get rigidly obsessed with hitting that perfect 8-hour mark, you build up intense performance anxiety when you inevitably fall short. And guess what? That anxiety is exactly what keeps you awake. Paradoxically, letting go of that pressure and just accepting, hey, I might be awake for a bit, is for sure the fastest possible way to get back to sleep.
All right, Section 3, the hypnotic voice. So we know what the brain needs to do, let go and stop striving. But how do hypnotherapists and audio guides actually push us into that state? It turns out it's not just the soothing vibe. We are talking about hard acoustic physics. Researchers at universities in Belgium recorded over 30 hypnotherapists, first speaking normally and then switching to their clinical hypnotic induction voice. When they analyzed the fundamental frequency, basically the pitch of their voice, there was a huge measurable drop. A lower pitch inherently signals deep comfort and is biologically tied to low physiological arousal in humans. So the speaker is literally engineering an acoustic environment designed to calm you down.
But it's not just pitch. The overall volume or sound intensity drops significantly too.
But here is the real secret sauce, a metric called the degree of voice breaks. During hypnosis, the voice breaks way more often. It gets breathy, whispery, and incorporates these long, deliberate pauses that shatter the steady stream of sound. Basically, the speaker refuses to give your brain a predictable rhythm to latch onto.
When you combine these acoustic elements, you get a highly calculated recipe for putting someone to sleep. The data shows that an engineered hypnotic voice drops its pitch by almost 20 Hz, cuts the volume by 7 decibels, and bumps up the breathiness and pausing by nearly 14%. That is absolutely no accident. They are strategically manipulating sound waves to drag your nervous system right down into rest and digest mode.
Which brings us to Section 4, the habituation problem.
And this circles us perfectly back to our opening mystery. If this acoustic recipe is so flawless and the psychology is rock solid, why do our favorite sleep tools eventually just betray us? What happens when your brain completely memorizes every single engineered pause, whisper, and word? Well, eventually, the magic completely wears off.
The culprit here is habituation. This is the massive biological roadblock that has historically haunted the entire meditation app industry. When you loop a pre-recorded track, your brain learns its patterns. By night 15, you know exactly what sentence is about to drop. Because of this, you're not actually relaxing anymore. You are actively anticipating. You're listening closely. And remember that golden rule we talked about? Sleep requires paying attention without engaging. Anticipation is total mental engagement. So habituation literally completely defeats the purpose of the whole exercise.
Let's look at Section 5, Tech for Better Sleep.
So how is the 2026 tech landscape tackling this issue? Well, you've got the giants like Calm. Gorgeous production, but the library is static, meaning a high risk of habituation over time. Headspace gives you fantastic wind-down routines, but again, relies heavily on fixed content. Insight Timer changes it up with a massive community library, which is awesome for variety, but active searching at 2 a.m. is a whole different kind of engagement, right? And then you have the new frontier, apps like In the Moment, which use generative AI to build completely unique sessions every single night. This generative AI approach essentially bypasses habituation entirely. You just tell the app what's keeping you up tonight, like maybe you're stressing over a presentation, your shoulders are tight, or you had a weird argument earlier. The AI then spins up a custom script using those exact acoustic rules we unpacked earlier: low pitch, breathy delivery, slow pacing. But here's the kicker. Because your brain has never heard the specific track before, it cannot anticipate what comes next. You literally can't engage in anticipation. You are forced to just be present, listen, and finally let go.
All right, our final section, practical tools for tonight.
I want to give you something tangible you can use the second this explainer ends. Absolutely zero tech required. If you find yourself staring at the ceiling tonight, I want you to try the 4-7-8 breathing technique. It's a proven physiological hack to jumpstart that parasympathetic state we keep talking about. Here is how it works. Put the tip of your tongue against the ridge just behind your top front teeth. Now, inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold that breath for a count of 7. Then exhale completely through your mouth, making a nice big whoosh sound for a full 8 seconds. That super long exhale literally forces your heart rate to drop and distracts your mind from whatever is stressing you out. Just repeat that cycle 4 times.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Next time you're facing a restless night, and it happens to all of us, what's your game plan going to be? Are you going to keep striving, trying to force sleep with the exact same predictable audio track your brain memorized weeks ago? Or is it time to practice some true non-striving? Ditch the familiar and embrace a totally fresh approach, whether that's dynamic AI audio or just the simple, focused rhythm of your own breath. Remember, the science is crystal clear on this. The harder you try to grip onto sleep, the faster it slips right through your fingers.